What if reality is not ignoring you? What if the field around you is not silent, not empty, not random, but simply responding to the frequency you keep becoming? It is no coincidence that you are here right now. Something in you already sensed this before you heard these words. Maybe you have felt it in certain moments, when your inner state changed and the world outside you seemed to change its tone. A conversation softened, a door opened, a person appeared, or without any obvious explanation, the same life that felt heavy yesterday began to feel strangely possible today. The field responds when your frequency changes, and before we go deeper, I want you to understand this carefully. This is not about pretending that life is always easy. It is not about believing that one thought can control every event. It is not about blaming yourself for what happens around you. This is about exploring a more subtle possibility, that your inner state may influence how you perceive, choose, respond, and participate in the field of your life. Soon, you will see why the same situation can feel completely different depending on the frequency from which you meet it. Later, you will discover why many ancient traditions, modern contemplative practices, and some emerging conversations around consciousness all point toward one mysterious idea. You are not only reacting to reality, you are relating to it. And by the end of this message, you may begin to notice the exact moment when your energy stops asking the old world for permission and starts listening for a different response. If this already resonates with you, subscribe to this channel, not as a random action, but as a small commitment to remain tuned to this path of inner awakening. Let it be your anchor. Let it be your way of saying, I am willing to keep listening. Because there are two ways to live this moment. You can keep moving through life as if everything outside you must change first, or you can begin to explore what becomes possible when something inside you shifts first. And that is where the real revelation begins. Most people are taught to chase reality from the outside. They try to force the answer, force the timing, force the recognition, force the result. And when nothing changes immediately, they assume the universe is closed, life is against them, or something in them is broken. But what if the first movement is not force? What if the first movement is coherence? There are moments when you are thinking one thing, feeling another, saying another, and doing another. Your mind wants peace, but your nervous system expects disappointment. Your words say trust, but your body whispers danger. Your desire calls for expansion, but your identity still clings to the familiar cage. And in that fragmentation, life can feel confusing. Not because you are failing, but because your signal is divided. If you are seeing this, it may be because you are ready to stop fighting the reflection and begin listening to the frequency behind it. You may have reached the point where repeating the same emotional patterns no longer feels like protection. It feels like a loop. It feels like a room with no windows. It feels like a version of you that has survived, but has not yet fully opened. The field responds when your frequency changes. Some perspectives suggest that what we call reality is not experienced directly, but filtered through perception, expectation, attention, memory, and emotional state. In simple terms, two people can stand in the same room and live two different worlds. One sees rejection, another sees redirection. One sees delay, another sees preparation. One sees silence, another hears an invitation to become still. This is not magic in the childish sense. It is the mystery of consciousness meeting experience. And here's the first revelation. Your frequency is not only what you feel, it is the total atmosphere of your being. It is your attention, your emotion, your beliefs, your posture, your breath, your assumptions, your choices, and the invisible meaning you give to what happens. When your frequency is fear, you scan for threats. When your frequency is resentment, you collect evidence of betrayal. When your frequency is worthiness, you begin to recognize invitations that were previously invisible. Pause with that, because this is where many people miss the opening. They think the field is not responding, when in reality, they are still asking from the old state. They ask for love while expecting abandonment. They ask for peace while rehearsing conflict. They ask for expansion while secretly preparing to be disappointed again. If this lands somewhere deep in you, gently press like to anchor this moment. Not because a button has power by itself, but because intention becomes stronger when it is marked by an action. Let it be a small signal. I am paying attention now. You can choose to keep calling your old reactions your personality, or you can begin to see them as patterns that are ready to be observed. One path keeps you identified with the noise. The other invites you to become the one who hears the noise without becoming it. And when you become the observer, the field begins to feel different. Now take a slow breath, not a dramatic breath, not a forced breath, just a conscious one. Feel the air enter. Feel your shoulders soften. Feel the space between one thought and the next. This is the first doorway. Because the moment you observe your state, you are no longer completely trapped inside it. The moment you notice fear, you are not only fear. The moment you notice longing, you are not only longing. The moment you notice the old frequency, something in you has already stepped beyond it. And that step matters. Many people look for transformation as if it will arrive like thunder. But often, it begins like a quiet adjustment, a softer breath, a different interpretation, a pause before reacting, a decision not to feed the same inner story, a willingness to say, maybe I do not have to meet this moment as the person I used to be. That is not small. That is a shift, and the field responds when your frequency changes. There are those who have explored these ideas for centuries through prayer, meditation, contemplation, ritual, philosophy, and silence. They may have used different words: vibration, spirit, mind, heart, intention, awareness, consciousness. But beneath the language, many pointed to something similar. The outer life is not separate from the inner life in the way we were taught to imagine. Not identical, not simplistic, not controllable in an absolute way, but connected. And this connection is where your power returns. The second revelation is this: frequency changes not when you deny what you feel, but when you stop worshiping it as the final truth. You can feel fear and still choose presence. You can feel uncertainty and still choose alignment. You can feel sadness and still allow one small ray of beauty to enter the room. This is not pretending. This is inner leadership. Your old frequency says, I must wait until the world proves I am safe. Your awakened frequency says, I can create a safer relationship with this moment from within. Your old frequency says, nothing changes for me. Your awakened frequency says, I am available to notice what is changing. Do you feel the difference? One closes the senses, one opens them, one repeats the past, one listens for the new, one argues with reality, one enters relationship with it. And as you enter relationship with the field instead of fighting it, something subtle begins. You stop demanding that life speak in the exact language of your fear. You stop rejecting the answer because it does not arrive wearing the shape you expected. You stop confusing delay with denial silence with absence, and discomfort with failure. Soon, you will understand why the field often responds first through your perception before it appears to respond through events. This is important, because if your perception does not shift, even a new opportunity may look like a threat. Even a new connection may feel unsafe. Even a new beginning may be rejected by the old identity because it does not recognize the unfamiliar as safe. Write this in the comments if you feel ready. My frequency is learning a new response. Write it slowly if you can. Let the words become visible. Many people find that writing a declaration helps them notice the inner commitment behind it. And if you want, share what part of your life feels ready to respond differently. Because there is a window that opens when awareness becomes honest. It does not remain open forever in the same way, because the old pattern will always try to return to what is familiar. Not because it is evil, because it is known. The mind often prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar freedom. But you are not here to repeat only what is known. Your presence in this moment means something in you is already available for a different rhythm. The third revelation is this: your frequency is trained by what you repeatedly give authority to. If you give authority to every fear, fear becomes your atmosphere. If you give authority to every old memory, the past becomes your prophet. If you give authority to every external reaction, the world becomes the ruler of your inner temple. But if you begin to give authority to awareness, to breath, to chosen meaning, to grounded hope, to the possibility that you can meet life differently, then the signal begins to reorganize. Not in one instant, not through force, but through repetition. Feel this. Repetition is the architecture of frequency. What you return to, you reinforce. What you rehearse, you become more available to. What you keep naming as impossible can begin to feel like law, even if it is only an old conclusion wearing the costume of truth. This is why one conscious moment matters. It interrupts the spell. When you pause before reacting, you weaken the old circuit. When you breathe before answering, you create space for a wiser response. When you notice the story your mind is telling and gently ask, "Is this the only meaning available?" you step into a wider field. And in that wider field, different choices become visible. Like this video if you are beginning to see the pattern. Let that action be a simple seal on the first layer of the revelation. You are not forcing reality. You are refining your relationship with it. There is a perspective, often spoken about in spiritual language and sometimes explored in the language of consciousness, that attention behaves like a kind of inner light. Where attention goes, experience becomes more vivid. What you repeatedly notice becomes easier to find. What you expect often shapes what you are prepared to recognize. Again, this does not mean you control everything. It means you are participating, and participation is powerful. The fourth revelation is that the quantum field, as a metaphor for possibility, does not respond to your words alone. It responds to congruence. To the degree that your thoughts, emotions, body, and actions begin to speak the same inner language. If you say, "I am ready," but every choice says, "I am hiding," the field of your life receives the hiding. If you say, "I trust," but constantly act from panic, the dominant signal may still be panic. If you say, "I choose expansion," but keep returning to environments, conversations, and habits that shrink you, then your frequency remains divided. This is not a reason to judge yourself. It is a reason to become clear. Because clarity is compassion with direction. The field responds when your frequency changes. So ask yourself gently, not as an accusation, but as a doorway. Where am I asking life for something I am not yet willing to embody? Where am I requesting peace while practicing inner war? Where am I calling in a new chapter while continuing to speak the language of the old one? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to wake the part of you that already knows. And perhaps this is why you are here. Not everyone reaches the point where they can look at their inner atmosphere with honesty. Some people keep blaming the mirror. Some keep polishing the outside while the inner signal remains confused. Some keep waiting for the world to become gentle before they allow themselves to soften. But those who awaken begin differently. They do not deny the outer world. They simply stop giving it complete ownership of the inner world. Share this with someone who needs to remember that they are not powerless inside their own experience. Not to convince them, not to preach, just to offer a door. Sometimes one message arrives at the exact moment a person is ready to breathe differently. And now, before the deeper revelation opens, I want you to enter this with your body, not only your mind. If you can, sit comfortably. Let your hands rest somewhere natural. Relax your jaw. Soften the space around your eyes. Take a slow inhale through the nose and let it be easy. Hold it for a brief moment, not with tension, but with awareness. Then exhale as if you are releasing an old signal that no longer needs to lead. Again. Inhale and imagine that your attention is returning from every place where you left it. From the conversation you replayed, from the future you tried to control, from the memory that kept asking for your energy. Call it back gently. Exhale and let your body know, I am here now. You do not have to become perfect. You do not have to become fearless. You do not have to force a high vibration. Just become honest, become present, become available, feel, breathe, allow, observe, accept, receive. Now imagine your inner state as a field of light around your body. Not literal, not something you must prove, just a symbolic image to help your awareness organize itself. Notice its texture. Is it tight? Is it scattered? Is it dim? Is it rushing ahead of you? Do not fix it. See it. And as you see it, imagine one small adjustment. A little more space in the chest. A little more warmth in the belly. A little more softness in the throat. A little more dignity in the spine. This is the second doorway. You are not trying to escape your life. You are learning to enter it from a different frequency. The field responds when your frequency changes. Take a moment. Let this settle. And if you feel even a small shift, press like as a way of anchoring this state. Let it remind you that awareness is not abstract. It can be practiced. It can be embodied. It can be returned to. Now listen closely, because this is where many people misunderstand frequency. They think it means always feeling happy, always feeling grateful, always being calm, always being positive. But that can become another mask, a spiritual mask, a beautiful cage, a way of abandoning the real human being inside you. True frequency is not forced positivity. True frequency is honesty refined by presence. It is the ability to feel grief without becoming only grief. To feel anger without handing it the steering wheel. To feel desire without collapsing into desperation. To feel uncertainty without turning it into a prophecy of failure. This is where your old identity begins to loosen. The version of you that waited for external proof before feeling worthy begins to soften. The version of you that confused intensity with truth begins to calm down. The version of you that repeated old stories because they were familiar begins to realize, I can choose a new meaning without denying what happened. That is the beginning of the alchemist within you. The alchemist does not reject the raw material. The alchemist transforms relationship to the raw material. Fear becomes information. Delay becomes refinement. Silence becomes listening. Desire becomes direction. Sensitivity becomes intelligence. And from that place, the field of your life no longer feels like an enemy to conquer. It begins to feel like a mirror, a classroom, a conversation, and sometimes a mystery. This perspective is not usually shared in a grounded way. Many speak as if frequency means controlling the universe. Others reject the whole idea because it has been exaggerated. But there is a middle path, and it is more powerful because it is more honest. You are not here to dominate reality. You are here to become coherent enough to meet reality differently. And when you meet reality differently, different responses become possible. That is the main revelation. The quantum field responds differently because you are no longer the same participant. When your inner state shifts, your attention changes. When your attention changes, your choices change. When your choices change, your relationships change. When your relationships change, your timing, your opportunities, your interpretations, and your sense of possibility may begin to change as well. Not as a guarantee, as a living process, not as control, as participation, not as fantasy, as alignment. This is why two people can face the same uncertainty and walk away with different futures. One contracts, repeats, and reacts. The other pauses, listens, and responds. One sees the unknown as punishment. The other begins to see it as a field of unformed possibility. And you, right now, are beginning to remember that you are not only the person who has been shaped by life. You are also the person who can shape how you meet life. This is the first step toward the awakened identity. Not complete, not final, not something to claim with ego, something to practice with humility. Because the new self is not born from a single moment of inspiration. It is built through small returns, returning to breath, returning to awareness, returning to chosen meaning, returning to the frequency that does not betray your depth. The field responds when your frequency changes. Write this declaration in the comments. I am becoming coherent with my new reality. Let it be simple. Let it be clear. Let it be yours. And if you feel called, add one word that describes the frequency you are choosing now. Peace, courage, trust, clarity, devotion, patience, expansion. Your words do not need to impress anyone. They only need to be honest. Now, as we begin to integrate this, remember what has been revealed. Your frequency is your atmosphere. Your atmosphere influences perception. Your perception influences choice. Your choice influences participation. And participation changes the way life can respond. This is not about escaping the human experience. It is about entering it with more awareness. So today, choose one practical point of coherence. One small place where your inner signal and outer action can agree. If you want peace, practice one peaceful response before demanding a peaceful world. If you want trust, take one grounded action that reflects trust without abandoning discernment. If you want expansion, remove one small habit that keeps confirming contraction. If you want love, speak to yourself once today without cruelty. Small actions matter because they teach the body a new language, and your body is often the last part of you to believe in a new reality. So be patient with it. Be gentle with it. Let the mind understand. Let the heart open. And let the body catch up through repetition. There are those who have guarded this simple truth in different forms. The inner and outer are in conversation, not always in ways we can measure, not always in ways we can predict, but in ways we can often feel when we become quiet enough. And now you have heard it in a way that you can use. The field responds when your frequency changes. If this message gave you even one moment of recognition, like this video to seal the frequency of that recognition. Subscribe if you want to continue this journey, because in the next messages, we will go deeper into how to stabilize a new frequency when the old world tries to pull you back. Share this with someone standing at the edge of a new chapter, someone who may not need advice, but may need remembrance. And before you go, take one final breath. Feel your body. Feel the space around you. Feel the possibility that you do not have to return to the old signal immediately. You are beginning to remember. You are beginning to listen. You are beginning to participate in your life from a different place. And perhaps, gently, quietly, beautifully, the field is already responding.